Shalom. I'm Robert Barr, and this is Reverend Sharon Dittmar, and we are delighted that you're sharing this Shabbat evening service with us. We're going to begin with a reading, a couple introductions, and then a conversation. So Sharon, would you begin?
Let the Sabbath be a time for believing in what could be and seeing with new eyes. In this serious world, let us take ourselves less seriously. In these harsh times, let us listen for a soothing word. While the world around us unfolds in an instant, let us judge each other a little more slowly.
Let the Sabbath shine a light into a corner of ourselves where hope is renewed. Let us remember a reason to be joyful and a way to be gentle. Let the Sabbath be a time for opening up. Let us find strength in our dreams and trust in our strength. So as I said, I'm Robert Barr, and this is Reverend Sharon Dittmar, and she is from the First Unitarian Church of Cincinnati.
To the best of my knowledge,
To the best of your knowledge. You've only been there how long?
This is the start of my 18th year.
Oh, wow. So we're going to go back and talk about that at the beginning. But Reverend Dittmar is a friend and a colleague and someone I've known for quite a long time. And I'm delighted that she's here sharing this Shabbat service with us. As you know, ourjewishcommunity.org is an expression of Congregation Beth Adam. We began it about 8 years ago. We began with the high holidays. Hopefully you joined us for these high holidays. And it is an attempt to give voice to a bold Judaism, a Judaism that speaks to who we are as 21st century individuals, that recognizes that the theology of our ancestors, the way they believed, isn't necessarily how we believe, that the language that they use doesn't necessarily speak to us any longer, that we need to find new words that say what we mean and mean what we say. We use technology as a way to communicate because we recognize that there are people all over the world who want to find a community like this. We recognize, too, that some people can watch us live. I know a few people are chatting. Sam's watching the chat now. We're going to do it a little bit different. If you have a question or a comment, chat it in and type it in, and Sam can throw it out to us if he feels it's part of the rhythm of the evening. But we're using technology as a tool. It's like a bigger megaphone or a stronger microphone because we recognize that people watch in real time. Some people watch in archives. Some people have to work. So using technology in this manner allows us to create a new kind of community, different than we've done before, but always with the same philosophy of boldness, creativity, integrity, and a sense that we have a responsibility to create something that will endure. So I'm delighted you're here and sharing the Shabbat service. I'm delighted Sharon's here. We're going to light the candles.
Oh.
So wait, we got to read first.
Oh.
Yeah, stage directions. Go ahead.
Thanks, Bob.
That's it. I wanted to see if you'd follow directions.
Sometimes. Night seeps up from the ground. Light falls from the stars. Distant. Icy. Ancient beyond all who came before. But the light of the Sabbath is warm. The light of the Sabbath is ours. The light of the Sabbath is of this time, of this place, of lives that know the past only in a dream.
As we light these candles, we create a place of warmth. As we light these lights, we welcome this time for reflection. As we light these lights, we stake our claim. And while these lights burn, the time is ours. If you'll light the candles now, I'll read, Baruch ha'or ba'olam, blessed is the light within the world. Baruch ha'or ba'adam, blessed is the light within each person. Baruch ha'or ba'Shabbat, blessed is the light of the Sabbath. So as I said, this is Reverend Sharon Dittmar of First Unitarian Church of Cincinnati, and we have known each other for quite a while now.
Okay, I was thinking about this. Is it 15 years? And do you remember? I don't remember the first time I met you.
I'm trying to think. I think it was at Hebrew Union College.
It's
possible. I think you were pregnant.
I might have been.
That's when I met you. I met you at Hebrew Union College, Jewish Institute of Religion.
Aww.
You were doing a program, and I don't remember why. And a colleague of ours, Stacia Joyce, introduced us. I'm positive that's how that happened.
Yes, and when Stacia left, she willed you to me.
Oh, that's right.
That's right. She said, you must know Bob, as did Rick.
Right. And so then we had a clergy group, and we've worked together. We've taught classes together, both here and at your church. I've given the Christmas Eve sermon at First Unitarian.
Oh, isn't that exciting?
It was great. I loved that. And that made it into a play.
It did?
Yeah, I didn't tell you about that. So, so the part of that sermon is in a play about Christmas. So I'm delighted, and what we're here to do, to share with you, is to learn about Reverend Dittmar, to learn about Unitarianism, to talk about that, talk about a little about what you did related to the high holidays, because Reverend Dittmar is going to be here more than once. We have at least three scheduled services together. So we're going to grow from it. But I thought the first thing to do is who are you? Were you raised a Unitarian? How did you become who you are?
I was raised a Presbyterian, and it was in the 70s, and it was before the whole born-again movement. If you are from the United States, you'll know that one. And so everything was, when they said mainline, they really meant mainline, okay? It was very middle of the road. You learn about Jesus. My whole family went to the church, so my aunts and uncles and grandparents and cousins, and so church meant family and community to me. So
This was East Coast.
Oh no, this was Youngstown, Ohio.
Right.
Oh, yeah, the
Right.
Rust Belt.
Okay.
Come on, you're Detroit. I'm Youngstown.
That's what we get along well.
Yeah. Okay. And I really liked it. But when I became 12 or 13, I started to have abstract thinking, and then there was all these questions I had that could not be answered. Well, why did Jesus get crucified, and how do we know he rose, and why 40 days, and how do you do that? And so my critical thinking brain outgrew the religion of my childhood.
Wow. And so you found Unitarianism. Was it part of a journey? Was it a?
It was definitely part of a journey, because then I spent about a decade as an agnostic.
Okay.
And by that I mean open to religion, but not knowing what I believed, and always really liking religious stories and people's story around religion and how religion motivated people. I think people tend to think about the negative things about religion, and there's plenty of them. You could look at the Crusades or the witch hunts if you're in the United States. These are not pleasant things, but I would also be like, but the civil rights movement and those nice people who helped raise me when I was a child and said, Sharon, don't run, So I had fond feelings about congregational life.
Right.
And so then, when I was in my early 20s, I wanted to go back to a congregation. And so I was nervous, like maybe some of you have been. So I'd go sit in the back of the pews, and I'd be like, can I stand these people? I don't know. And I'd run out as soon as the service was over. And then I had this terrible moment where I realized I might not be a Christian anymore. And that is not really a terrible moment, but it felt like one for me because my whole family was Christian.
Sure.
So then I had to be the outlier, the outsider, and eventually I became a Unitarian Universalist because that fits my theology.
Right.
I believe in God, but this is a very liberal definition of God. This is not an all-powerful God. This is not an all-knowing God.
Right.
So
very much, we talk a lot about theology here. Probably we'll talk about that another night with you. So
I'd love it.
Okay, so you found that you trained undergraduate, and then you have a graduate degree.
I do have a graduate degree. I went to Harvard.
You did?
I did. The funny joke about that is, if you've ever been to Harvard, there's the college, which is like up here, in the law school and the medical school, and they could fight for importance. But down here is like the divinity school.
But you have a great chapel, the Memorial Chapel at Harvard.
We have a gorgeous chapel, and
I've
as you
been
move farther west, people are like, you went to Harvard, and I have to laugh because while I was at Harvard, people were like, oh, you're at the divinity school.
It didn't really. Hey. So is the chapel part of? Excuse me, I'm sort of curious because I've been in the chapel. Is the chapel part of the divinity school, or is it Harvard's chapel?
I know it's Harvard's chapel.
Got it.
The one where Peter Gomes preached from and all.
Right.
It's the Memorial Chapel. Yes.
It's very beautiful. So you went there. You get and it's a little bit different. I think one of the things that's interesting to me is I trained at my graduate work, Hebrew Union College. So we get ordained from the seminary in the Unitarian tradition. You're not ordained by your seminary, are you?
No, the people, because we have congregational polity, so the people ordain us. Something I would say nice about Harvard, though, you learn about world religions, you learn about ethics, you learn a lot about religious history. They do that quite well.
So you have a master's in divinity, then you get called to a church?
Yeah, so first you have to find a congregation to ordain you, and I was ordained by the congregation where I did my internship, First Parish in Concord, Massachusetts, a place I love. They were very good to me. And then my first placement was at an interim as an interim minister at the Northern Hills Fellowship here in Cincinnati.
Right.
And then I was settled as a called minister at First Unitarian Church.
Very interesting. And it's First Unitarian Church. That's obviously the First Unitarian Church in Cincinnati. It's very famous, too.
I'm so glad you asked, Bob. So we're the oldest Unitarian congregation in the West, because this used to be the West.
West of the Alleghenies?
Yes,
Yeah.
we were founded in 1830 before those California congregations in Louisville, Kentucky. So we're actually the oldest one,
Wow.
founded by a lot of East Coast Unitarians who would have been abolitionist, anti-slavery, transcendentalist influenced.
Wow. Famous people belong there?
Well, of course. The last Unitarian president of the United States, William Howard Taft, and then some people don't know that his father, Alphonso Taft, was also a member and was a Supreme Court justice in the state of Ohio.
Wow.
And a former governor, George Hoadley, Peter Clark, the first black superintendent of schools in the city of Cincinnati, in the 1860s, held dual membership between AME and the Unitarians. We weren't merged with the Universalists yet.
Wow. That's amazing.
Very
That was
progressive. And the minister used to be friends with Isaac M. Wise because the congregations used to be across the street. This is the 1870s.
Sure.
You know, a time of deep discrimination. So, yeah.
So where was it? Was the church always located where it is?
No, this is its third location.
And where was it?
It used to be 4th and Race, and then it was 8th and Plum.
Wow, that's why we crossed.
I know.
Is that where St. Peter's and Chains is now?
Yes. Well, no, there's like a little, I don't know what
You're
it is,
across from the
cars
city,
or garage.
where the old city hall is.
Yes.
So for those of you who are sitting like, gee, they just seem to have an interesting
those of you asleep now.
So it happens that if you, there's a quarter in downtown Cincinnati where the city hall is located. Plum Street Temple, which was Isaac Mayer Wise's congregation, that was the Isaac Mayer Wise, founder of Reformed Judaism in America. Across the street from that is St. Peter and Change, which is the large Catholic church downtown, and the other corner would have been the Unitarian Church.
Yes,
That's
we
what
were
you
there.
think about what that would have represented, and then Music Hall, which is our big auditorium, also of that era, is a walk away. You could actually, in fact, Isaac Mayer Wise at one point talked about having services early so people could attend services on Friday and then walk to the Music Hall to have symphony.
Lovely.
So you're serving a famous church. It's a beautiful church. I've preached there, obviously. You have great stained glass. Really,
Tiffany windows.
I didn't know if you want to say that aloud. They're Tiffany windows.
It's
and
okay.
it's unusual. They're like, this church is one of the last remnants of that style of Tiffany windows in the country.
A lot of them got ruined or destroyed or broken. They're
Yeah, so
quite large, so
really.
it's easy to get broken.
So I think a lot of us have heard about Unitarians.
Yes.
Give us a hint. You know, what is that? I mean, as somebody who's Jewish, grew up Jewish, and I know Christians.
Did you know Unitarians when you were a kid, or you'd never heard of them?
When I was a kid.
Or young adult? Or...
Well, by the time I started getting interested in religion, then I was spread. But when I was a kid, probably not. When I was in high school, probably not.
Yeah.
And then slowly, I think maybe as I was entering college, getting involved in religion, then I began to know Unitarians and knew the Fellowship for the Humanists and the Unitarians there. But so can you give us like a quick primer on us?
Yes, when I'm in Jewish circles, I always say the Unitarian Universalists are your friend, and truly we are. We have a lot in common with liberal Judaism. The Unitarians believed in the oneness of God historically. The Universalists believed all souls were saved. These were two theologies that developed after the death of Jesus, the crucifixion of Jesus, when the developing Catholic Universal Church was still really taking shape. We forget that it took hundreds of years to take shape, and there were a lot of outlying thinkers. So eventually Unitarian and Universalist ideas became heresies. And so then we were heretics, yay. Heretics is Greek for to choose, and so we chose the minority position. And there was not an early Unitarian church, there was not an early Universalist church. They were really like theologies that just kept popping up by people who got persecuted or had to be secret about them. They really took shape as denominations more after the Protestant Reformation in the 1600s. And then in the United States, the Unitarians merged with the Universalists in 1961.
When were they formal movements?
I'd say they become more formalized. There's one Unitarian king in history in Transylvania. I know you'd like this, King Sigismund in the 1500s. There's a English Unitarian church probably in the 1700s.
Wow.
In the United States, it's about 1819 for the Unitarians, 1793 for the Universalists.
Wow. So these are old traditions. These are...
And this always blows people's mind. The other stream for Unitarianism is the Puritans.
Really?
It always blows. You had just the response.
Really?
Yes. So the Puritans bring this idea of congregational polity, the people votes, covenant, we walk together, we are a covenanted faith, Bob.
Oh, good. I feel better.
You know about that. Education, right of private conscience, they did bring this idea of sin. And as the Puritan church divides over time, there's a liberal branch and a conservative. We are the branch of the liberal who decided that focus on sin was not useful.
And so the core creed? What's the core creed of Unitarians?
We have 7 principles.
Okay.
And I think that's really, we have no creed. So we're a non-creedal faith.
Right.
Growing up as heresies, we were not in favor of creeds because they always cut us out.
Right.
So we never have a creed. So members in my congregation are anywhere from atheist, agnostic, theist, humanism, liberal Christians. I have some folks who, for example, grew up Jewish,
Right.
folks from blended marriages, folks who would self-identify more with pagan. But we have these 7 principles that we aspire to.
So I think for a lot of us, and maybe
Mm-hmm.
sort of the Jew, and maybe I'm not speaking for anyone online, but from folks that I've talked to at times, is they think of Unitarians as Christians. So it's because we think of, in America, there's Christians, there are Jews, there are Muslims, there are Buddhists.
We used to be.
Used to be Christians, and
We're not anymore.
Not anymore.
And the Universalists were too. But we're just not. We were influenced by actually humanism as early as the 1860s and 70s. And so that's early in the United States.
Right.
And because we have no creed, we innovate very quickly theologically. And so it's not against the rules to be an atheist. I have colleagues who are atheists, who serve congregations. And I have to pastor to people with a variety of faith understandings. And we don't focus so much on your theology. So we'd be curious about it. But our principles is really like the inherent worth and dignity of every person, justice, equity, and human relations. You don't have to believe in God to care about these principles.
Right. Absolutely. And that's
And
we talk about a lot.
this.
We get a lot of our sermons. So the one thing that's sort of interesting, so if for those of us who are going to visit a Unitarian church, we've never been one, we would go on Sunday morning to see services.
You would.
So your service, and so I did Christmas Eve sermon, which I have to say, if you've not heard it, I really enjoyed that sermon. It's one of my favorite sermons. It's on our website. It's on your website too. It was great. I just loved being able to play with the mythology of the birth of Jesus.
Of course.
And it was so much fun. But do you celebrate a range of holidays, picking from Jewish, Christian? What's your calendar if you're?
Yes. We have no liturgical calendar like our Christian friends would have. So, for our Christian friends, it'd be the 7th Sunday after Easter. It's a certain season, and we don't have that at all.
Okay.
Historically and culturally, because we have been Christian, we do celebrate Christmas and Easter. But let me tell you, that's really contentious, right? I've got members in my congregation who grew up Jewish, and they're like, oh, I don't want to hear about Easter. That's when I worry about pogroms. I got to be honest.
Right, sure.
And so I need to be sensitive about that. And I have members who are like, why do we do a Christmas service? And I'm like, I'm sorry, we do one. If you don't like it, don't come. It's usually not on Sunday. I mean, because on the other hand, people are like, why didn't you sing the special Christmas music? Everyone has a different idea. This is non-creedal stuff here.
So, but you did do Rosh Hashanah.
Yes, because one of our sources, we have principles and we have sources. And one of our sources is world religions.
Okay.
And also Jewish and Christian teachings. And so I happen to love the High Holy Days. They are one of my favorite religious holidays.
Really?
Oh, yes. Atonement? This is rich.
You don't make
Look at
mistakes. You don't need. See, this is really what's very funny, because I know Reverend Dittmar for years. The last person who needs to atone for anything is you. You're such a purist and driven
No, everyone needs to atone for something. And atone. Okay, so forgiveness. Let's digress into theology. Why I love the High Holy Days. Forgiveness, which we hear from our Christian friends, is like, I forgive you for whatever. You don't need to change.
Right.
You don't need to do anything. I forgive you. And then we tell people, you must forgive so-and-so. I don't know. It's one thing to forgive Bob for breaking my car window. It's another thing to forgive Bob for a crime against humanity. Okay?
Right.
So forgiveness is dicey terrain. I think we should be a lot more careful with it. Atonement says, I need to look at myself.
Right.
Self-awareness, hello. And then also, I should apologize to people. This is the first step in reconciliation and creating a covenanted community that can stay together. Atonement is incredibly powerful. You've missed the mark, teshuva, right?
Right. Sure.
I love this. And you don't have an idea of original sin?
Right. No, we don't. And I happen to, the thing about, so it's interesting, because I've talked certainly about the idea of forgiveness, because I think the Jewish approach to forgiveness is very different than the Christian approach.
Oh, I'd love to hear about this.
Because you don't forgive somebody until they've done something to earn forgiveness, and you can't.
Very important.
Right? Somebody
I love
has.
that.
I mean, that's the whole notion. And actually, many years I gave a sermon on that. The only way that somebody really is you can show that the person has changed is they have to be in a similar situation and not do the same act again. Then they've proven that they're different, and then you can forgive them. But simply, we don't forgive without effort first.
And I think some people might need to forgive because it helps them. But often when we forgive, we don't forget, nor should we.
Right.
But I think atonement is about a personal responsibility, reconciliation, and it also recognizes atonement. I think that you can't always get atonement or earn atonement. There's something about it that's, I think, a lot more real about the depth of human experience and the pain we can have in our lives and the suffering we can have caused, whether accidentally or intentionally. So to me, it is much more healing. It helps humans move forward and make meaning of their life. The things that you wouldn't want to sit at a cocktail and be like, oh yeah, when I was in a car accident and I hurt someone, but we need to process that.
Right. It's interesting. It's interesting that you did that. It's interesting how you bring together the different aspects of different religions, using world religions as you said, a source?
Yes, and
That's
so we would use science and reason as a source, direct experience. I've preached sermons on Buddhism or Hinduism or Shintoism or Islam or Ramadan or Holi, which is this, it's a Hindu holiday I love. Someday we'll talk about it. It's so much fun. It's transgressive. It's fun.
So what's really exciting, the reason I'm delighted you're here is we're going to learn a lot, because I think this is the challenge. I think we're both liberal religious clergy.
Yes.
And we were talking about this before we started services, the importance of bringing together liberal religious folks to be able to begin, because while we may have different cultural aspects, that sort of the patina that covers how we do it. I come out of, I always say I paint in blue and white. You might, that's the, right? Sort of the Jewish colors. Right?
Of course. The flag of Israel. I got it.
Got it. I just don't know. You do red and green, right?
I don't know what we do.
Okay.
We probably do the rainbow. Man.
Right. Yeah. Rainbow and but I think what's important too is and the reason I'm delighted you're here is I want folks who have a religious perspective, liberal religious spectrum, from different backgrounds to feel that they can be part of a bigger community. They're not just, they're part of the Unitarian movement or part of a approach like Beth Adam takes or some other aspect. They know that liberalism also cuts across the religions.
And I think you're also then lifting up that I think conservative takes on religion or fundamentalist takes, we could have a whole show on fundamentalism, has really taken over the public sphere, but that's not the full breadth of religious experience in this world.
Right. And I think and for us, for me, I'm going to talk for myself, I find that frustrating because I think too many people sort of think that is the voice of religion. I think religion, you said, religion has been very progressive, disruptive at times in history, and it can be challenging, and there's value in it to also have a structure in which to function. So that's what
make meaning as humans. Rites of passage, it's this anthropological term for you people, liminal period. That's why we have these ceremonies. How do I make sense of the fact I got married, or my father died, or I had a child, or, religion is very important for helping us hold the stories of our life.
That's great. So I am delighted you're here. I am thrilled we can do this. I'm looking forward to future occasions. We're going to take some of these topics and we're going to really just delve into one and sort of look at it, turn it around, flip it over, do that, do it again and again. And so what I think it's very exciting because I think this is growth. This is how we all grow, by having different viewpoints and different ideas and dialoguing in a new kind of concept.
Yeah, and maybe we can have a session where Bob and I don't agree on something, because that's really fun too. Sometimes we don't agree.
I don't remember.
It's not that often. Don't you remember I went through an angry period?
Yes, I do remember that. That's right.
And Bob kept saying to me...
And I forgave you very quickly.
And he kept saying to me, "It's okay, I'm from Detroit."
That's right. Beautiful. I do remember. That's right. I did say that. Yeah, you were in a place for a while.
I was angry.
Yeah, that happened. But
I'm not angry now.
Oh, good. It's much easier.
You're safer now.
Oh, good. That's why I'm sitting close to you.
Yeah.
If I would have been sitting on the other side of the chapel, it would have been a different experience.
And I apologized. I atoned for my bad behavior. Do you remember that? I apologized to you. It's important. Reconciliation, covenant, right?
Right. And I think and we sort of acted out in real life. Right? This is how we do it. And it's sort of interesting to be around folks to have these conversations. So this is really exciting. I'm delighted you're here, and we're going to continue this. We're going to end it right now, but we're going to continue it in November.
But if your viewers have questions for us, or for me, for further episodes, please.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You can always.
I want to know.
Right. So So we're going to send in questions too. We'll mention it later on. Okay. So I'm going to uncover the challah and continue reading the challah reading From the earth, a seed harbored in darkness, from heat and cold and wet and dry to wind and air and rain. Golden ground, flour from wheat, with water and yeast active and alive. Always something saved. From the earth, sweetness and salt, from nature tamed are oil and eggs, mixed and rested in darkness and warmth, kneaded smooth, made right by touch. Hands that shape, mouths that want. From the earth, our challah, our warmth. Baruch HaMalkapenu, blessed is the work of our hands. Baruch HaZon HaAdam, blessed is the vision of our mind. Baruch Lechem HaAretz, blessed is the bread of the earth. Then some people have juice, some people have wine. I think that's juice.
We don't have wine.
We don't know. We don't have.
We lift this cup of wine together as a tribute to our past, as a blessing for our future. May the allure of its untold flavors beckon us forever to keep uncovering new branches, new roots that hold us together. Tonight, as we welcome the Shabbat, may we find time to spend in our own quiet company and listen to the calling of our hearts.
Bruchim chachayim ba'olam, blessed is the life within the world. Bruchim chachayim ba'adam, blessed is the life within us. And you can say,
Oh, l'chaim.
you were doing that before.
I was. I know that one.
You know that one. You did really good. There you go.
Okay, so do.
You can take a sip.
Oh, okay.
There you
We'll
go.
partake of life.
Partake
L'chaim.
of l'chaim, to life. So this was so much fun. Glad you're here. So let me just do some announcements.
Sure.
I don't know. Do you do announcements in your church?
No. They're like worship service death. Announcements. It's like, sorry.
You do. Do you have you banned out? Have you banned announcements at church?
Yes.
Have you really?
Yes.
Wow.
And there's like two kinds of announcements we do in worship. Everything else is in print.
Right. Okay.
Because people just wanted to get up there.
Well,
and
see,
go,
yours different. You let your folks get up. Yeah, that was. See, this is. You're nicer clergy than I am, so we didn't. We
I don't know, Bob.
No, our announcements are always
All right, so let's hear.
bracketed.
Let's hear.
Okay, so first of all, I want to thank those of you who shared the high holidays with us this year. I was delighted that you were here. I appreciate your support and understanding when we had a bit of a technical difficulty with our memorial service. We got it fixed. It's online. I do apologize. But what was really amazing, so we had hundreds of people who stuck around while we were sort of fixing the problem. And they were all chatting with each other, even though it wasn't working at the time. But they were there, and that was really great. So all of our services, Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, are in our archive. So if you look at the screen that you're looking at right now, underneath there are archived services you can watch, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur. Also, if you go to our YouTube channel, you go to YouTube and type in ourjewishcommunity.org, you can watch just a sermon, Torah reading, Midrash. Also, if you like something, you could share that then with somebody. I know some people, I know the Yom Kippur sermons were cutting up as well. People say, can I share this? So you can look at those things. That'll be in a bit. So look at the archives, go to YouTube. Always go to our Facebook page. That's where we promote things. Unfortunately, we did not get to promote this service. A person who manages Facebook had an eye injury today and couldn't look at the screens, which is a real problem. But always go to Facebook. There's always updates. Always engage in that. Your sharing, your liking our content has helped us to grow to what we're becoming. Next week, we're going to continue to have different people. Next week, Rabbi Rachel Sabbath Bechalachmi. I don't know if you know Rachel. She is the new director of Dean of Admissions internationally for Hebrew Union College,
wow.
Jewish Institute of Religion. She's also an advisor of the president of the Hebrew Union College.
Okay.
Both a rabbi and a PhD. So, and very interesting. Also, she's very much into Mordechai Kaplan, also a heretic. It was interesting when you talked about heretics and heresy. That was my Kol Nidre sermon. I talked about heretics as moving the future. They in their age, they oftentimes are considered abnormal, but ultimately heresy becomes normative, and it opens it up. Because they push the boundaries and break it open. So I spoke about that. I didn't know about Unitarians. I talked about Jewish heretics.
Oh, we have a lot.
Yeah, I'm sure you guys do.
They got burned.
You.
In general.
Oh.
It was bad.
You didn't mean burned like... You're talking fully burned.
Yeah, they got set on
Legitimate.
fire by angry people.
Ooh, that's bad.
It was bad.
Yeah, we usually burn books. In the Jewish community, the books were burned.
Oh, okay. Much more civilized.
So Maimonides' books were burned.
But he got to live.
He got to live.
That's important.
And Kaplan's book got burned. So we talked about this. So that's great. And you're going to be back November 13th.
I'll be back.
So, and if any of you have questions for Reverend Dittmar, write to rabbi at ourjewishcommunity.org. Rabbi at ourjewishcommunity.org. Those emails come to me. And if there's some questions, we can roll them into the conversation so we can answer them, because we're also hoping to probably share this with some Unitarians. If you have some Unitarian friends, do you know a Unitarian? You should find.
Yeah, they're your friend. You just don't know it.
You don't know that. Maybe they haven't
Yeah.
talked about it. It doesn't oftentimes come up in conversation. You might not even think,
No.
right? So we're delighted you're here. I'm delighted that you shared this. We close with our final words. May we know blessings who are near, and may we know blessings who are far. And may the Sabbath bring its goodness to everyone soon, wherever they are. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.